Ryan and Rolly.
Everybody thinks it ends with a KO. What say you, Shawn Porter?
Fight of the night. What say you, Big O?
Okay, what say him?
All right, I'm going to go out on a limb and say something that could be kind of wild.
Okay.
I don't think anybody on the card has a great chin.
Oh.
I think Barbosa probably has the.
That was
Barbosa may have the
so
best
far
chin
away
on
from
the card.
like,
I love it.
Low key.
What the hell?
And Rolly and Ryan, I don't think
Ramirez had one.
Ryan has a great chin.
Before,
I think Ryan. Say it again. I'm sorry.
Ramirez had one.
Yeah. So this is what I'm saying. Ramirez had one, but it got checked a few times, and we know how they loosen up.
Right.
Now, one thing that's trippy to me is that if we go back to that Haney-Garcia fight, Haney actually won every round that he didn't get knocked down in.
Yep.
Yes.
That doesn't get talked about enough.
Yep.
What was lost in all the chaos, it was actually a great fight. They actually
It was
delivered.
actually a great fight. It was actually a great fight.
He actually, it just was the jaw was just so far out. It was like, it wasn't.
He actually didn't get knocked out. He got up 4 times.
Showed crazy heart in that fight. Yeah.
So, which brings me to Rolly and Garcia. To me, both of these dudes are subject to a knockout. They're both suspect when it comes to their chin. Because of the faith that I have in Derek James, and I think that the wisdom that he's been able to impart upon Ryan, we've seen progress in Ryan's fights since he's been with Derek that make him more fundamentally sound. Because prior to working with Derek, I always felt like Ryan had extremely slow feet for somebody with such fast hands, which is a weird combo when that happens. Now he seems to move a little bit better. I'm interested to see how he comes out. He hasn't fought in a long time. There's going to be ring rust. But, and from what everybody says that fights him, Rolly's got, a cast on, basically. They say he hits so hard. I'm not saying that in any sort of accusatory way. I mean that as a compliment. He hits hard. I don't want that to come off the wrong way. So I expect the fireworks. In all honesty, this is the fight I'm least excited about on the card.
And that's the main event.
Yeah,
I think when he breaks it down, that's probably the least exciting. But we know what we're gonna get. Somebody's gonna get knocked out. I'm leaving 75% to Ryan Garcia. I think Ryan Garcia is a little more skilled than Rolly. A little more talented.
I think he's a lot more skilled than Rolly.
Yep. Rolly has not been the same Rolly since Tank Davis.
Yes.
That Rolly makes this a great fight.
Yes.
If that Rolly come out, that he actually, I think, and I might be crazy, I think I had him up in that fight until he wasn't up.
Yeah.
But I think if that Rolly shows up, that's a good fight. Shout out to PBC between him and Pitbull. You're the MVPs on that roster because they stay in the fight. Win, lose, or draw. PBC keep him in the fight, but I'm going with fourth round knockout, Ryan Garcia.
Dang. What you guys to tell?
Well, on a personal level, I actually love Rolly. He lives out here in Vegas, so it brings me no joy to pick Ryan Garcia by knockout. And I'd be
don't pick him.
I got to keep it real, right? I got and probably due to the nature of the styles in brutal highlight reel fashion, because just the nature of how they open up and their styles. I think if Rolly though comes like Antt's talking about, because Rolly was at his best even a little bit before the Tank fight. Mm-hmm. He was at his best as just an uncouth, disrespectful, no respect at all for who is in front of him.
Old school boxer.
And Rolly is a talented fighter because he had no business starting boxing at 17, going into gyms throughout Vegas and whooping world champions' ass.
Name somebody you whooped.
Seen him, I won't do that, but some of it's on YouTube. He had a sparring session where he's giving it to Ugas, I believe, on YouTube. And
Ugas almost beat Shawn.
So didn't he?
So he was, but ever since that Tank fight, and actually right before that Tank fight, Rolly's been maturing outside the ring. Rolly's actually a deep thinker. Rolly likes the stock market. He's become, like in Rocky 3, when Mick says the worst thing could happen to you, you got civilized. Rolly is civilized these days. And if he comes in like the old Rolly with no respect for Ryan Garcia, like when they were teenagers, he has the definition of a puncher's chance. When they talk about a puncher's chance, they're talking about a fighter like Rolly. Oscar De La Hoya, he made an apt comparison. He said this is going to be Ryan's De La Hoya Mayorga. You know, and that might be a good comparison by Oscar. I got Ryan. Ryan's extremely talented. The question for kind of like we're talking about with Devin, what does Devin look like after that hellacious fight? What does Ryan look like passing a drug test and making weight? You know, is he still, because if he looks as great as he did, right? You know, because if he looks like the same guy from a year ago, then got to give credit to him. Like, he's just a bad boy and he's not weight drained anymore. So the boxing game's got to look out because here comes Ryan Garcia. If he takes a step down, that's going to open the door for kind of like Conor Benn had to face going the distance twice after he got popped for PEDs as well. Well, what's real and what's not. So I think Ryan wins by knockout. I'd be happy for Rolly if he proves us all wrong and gets it done. But I gotta give it to Ryan.
Fight at 147. No one's talking about that.
The fight is at 147.
Right. I think Ryan's gonna look good.
Is this Rolly's first fight at 147?
Yeah.
I was actually gonna say some of what you just said about Rolly before you went into that. This is the only thing I'm gonna say. Rolly, it's funny, for as much as he's been through in the ring and the hardships that he's had in the ring in front of everybody, he still shows up at all the fights. He still shows up with a smile on his face. He still shows up with
Rolly
great
loves
energy.
being Rolly.
Huh?
Rolly loves being Rolly.
Yes.
And that's big.
Yeah. And you know, that's big as a fighter, because a lot of times all of this talk and podcasting and reporters and stuff like that, all that can weigh you down. You don't hear it a lot. You don't hear it in the gym. Other fighters ain't talking about you and the coaches ain't talking about you or nothing like that. You don't even go visit a gym and they talk about you in a different gym. You know what I mean? But you just hear so much of it. And I can tell that Rolly hasn't cared about any of that. Here's my point with saying all that. Go back to not caring. You didn't care who was in front of you before. You didn't care what you looked like before. You didn't care which hand you knocked him out with before. Go back to not caring. If my man at 147 pounds goes back to not caring and just says, even if he says, this is my last one, I'm going out the way I want to go.
Even if I get knocked out.
My man might actually do something.
Right.
My man might actually do something.
Do you think he will show up like that?
I don't think he'll show up like that.
Because it's a lot to ask.
I think he's civilized now, to your point. I think he's calculated. I think he was always calculated outside of the ring. We just didn't know it. He's become calculated in the ring. He's overthinking himself. He's super careful now
because he knows what can happen.
Because of that back. Because of what comes on the back end of what he does on the front end. And I think that that one fight, it only takes one time for it to leave such a scar that you can't come back from. The difference between a Rolly and a Devin Haney is Devin has so much experience and so many things that he can call on and rely on that it's okay. He's going to be able to get his feet wet against a Jose Ramirez that doesn't cut off the ring very well and isn't overly aggressive and things of that nature. He'll be able to get his feet wet and get comfortable in the ring and operate the way that he used to. If I'm Rolly, be you and get it done. I have this 80-20 for Ryan. I think that fight ends in the knockout. I think that Ryan's gonna knock him out. But I would if I could dictate which Rolly was showing up, I dictate that and I bet on Rolly, because what I want Rolly to do is just simply say, I don't care which hand I knock you out with. Put him up. You remember how he used to be.
Yeah, man.
Put him up and let's go.
And he has some gifts. His speed and power. I mean, you heard Gervonta say that's the best puncher I ever been with. Fighters say that tend to big up the guys they beat more than guys that give them trouble. But I've seen Rolly in the gym and people would laugh when I go, he's actually one of the most gifted fighters I ever seen. Yeah. Not anywhere near the most technically proficient, but
I think you're seeing what he could be.
Yeah.
And a lot of fighters are seeing everything that he isn't.
Right.
And probably we know how long it takes to get who you become, who you could become.
He started at 17.
Yeah. So
yeah.